Welcome, everyone. So good to be with you today. I have back with me one of my favorites, Honey C. Golden, and we have with her today Brad WOZNY, who I've been wanting to get on because I just love the Ascension series that they do. So very, very happy to have them on the show today. And we're going to be talking all things Ascension and current energies, what's going on in the world. Brad, everyone knows Honey, but maybe some people, I don't know, maybe not a lot, but maybe some people don't know about you. Do you want to give us a short bio on who you are, and so we can kick this off?
Sure, wonderful. It's great to be here with you, ladies. So I'm Brad WOZNY, host of the Sovereign Soul Show. We've been now just came over 3 years and 500 shows roughly approaching. And as you can tell, maybe from the accent, I was born in Canada and had a lot of red pill experiences. First one when I was in the Canadian Light Infantry, then when I was working in the corporate world in New York City in the Pentagon. And so we have it when they dropped the 3 World Trade Center towers. I was down there just a few days later. I was actually supposed to be there. I was held back in Canada. Our CEO said, "Don't fly down for meetings." Said that to everybody. And then the next day, we had September 11 happen. So a few days later, when they opened up air travel, went down there because I had spent 2 years living and working in Manhattan with the financial services and legal vertical. So my clients were all either part of them spread out from the towers to obviously Wall Street. And then I was also part of the Department of Defense team for RIM BlackBerry. And so I was flown up to the Pentagon 72 hours after that. And then I was 18 stories below it. And when this all went down, we have it, the 3 World Trade Centers collapsing, being demolished in the footprint. And then being at the Pentagon, well, when this all happened, we had the emails. It was a missile strike. It was a missile strike. And now here we are, all these, like nearly a quarter of a century later, people still in that denial. And I feel that this was about continuity of government back then. So one of the reasons when I was flown to the Pentagon was because I was one of the few who were local to go in to do the meetings. And we were doing an E911 initiative because the only thing operating at the time was BlackBerry when all the networks went down in New York City and whatnot, but you could only communicate with BlackBerry. So when I was there, we were still triangulating people under the rubble, under the Trade Center towers, and using BlackBerry to help direct them to 5-8 stories below the rubble of the World Trade Center towers to send rescue crews in, right? And I didn't really do anything. I was like, this is a BlackBerry representative. That was kind of it, right? You have people who really did the work at that time. And in the Pentagon, we're rolling out BlackBerry and continuity of government. And, Derek and I just shared this on our show. We just did, we become close personal friends traveling on Truth Tour in America in 2022. I said, well, that was a continuity of government initiative then, which was to ensure that there would be constant communications in the event of a catastrophic emergency. And now where have we been for the last several years? This is happening. But what people have failed to realize, and one thing I'm grateful for a connection with Honey, Mark Atwood connected us. I got to become friends with Mark on Truth Tour, is the spiritual aspect of it. And I've been a Reiki master nearly a decade and practicing 22. And the spiritual aspect of this war for souls has been quite dismissed or not covered in the public. And only as of yesterday, Tucker Carlson and Sean Ryan, Navy SEAL guy in the States, are doing a show in Sean Ryan's studio, and they were talking about returning to sovereignty in God. That's even the name of the course of the Venus Twins, Return to Sovereignty in God, right? The literal healings by Christ that are healing people with vaxxed. And now we have the dark field microscopy to that fact. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm all about sovereignty, right? You can see my creed here. It's love, levity, liberty. And we have Archangel Michael's sword turned up in the eye. We have the tree of life and soul. We have the heart. And this is where it comes from. Because as you know, Anina, and those people in this audience, and Clay and I have been working together for a better part of a year and a half now. Love is the greatest power in the universe. And whether you consider it God, the greatest omnipresence, divinity, source, universal mother, great spirit, creator spirit, it's all the same. It's the all-knowing, loving mother and father of our creator of all sentient life while we're here. And at the end of the day, that's where we're all going back to anyway, right? So, and maybe we'll get another job. Maybe we'll reincarnate and go somewhere else after this. But we're here for, you know, the great end times. And not to say it from an apocalyptic negative standpoint, it's really amazing what's coming and what we're seeing happen in real time right now, which is being leaked out to the public on purpose, like Michigan Grand Central Station today. Right? It's just incredible about the humanitarian projects going on.
Wow, what a time to be alive, right? We were literally born for this time.
Yes, ma'am.
It really is.
So, honey, so good to have you back. What are your thoughts?
Thank you. Yeah, we're going through a lot right now. And I did talk about this already, but I think it's important to talk about more than once. And it has to do with this huge shadow that we have. It popped up, I want to say Saturday, maybe. And what happened is, so this shadow has to do with the divine feminine and creative energy. So creation, womb energy. So if you think about what's been going on, we've been in this 26,000 year cycle. And when that started, the feminine agreed to be under the thumb of the masculine. And that was so that we could sink deep into the 3D and we could learn. Now, we don't like it there and we don't want to be there anymore. And a lot of the learning went too far. It was taken advantage of. So there was some things that happened that we all know about, just like your poem that you're talking about, Brad. Things had gone beyond where they should have gone and gotten really ugly. But that shadow, there's a lot of anger that was in that shadow. Because even though the divine feminine agreed to that, doesn't mean they enjoyed it. So we basically are going back to the origin of humanity, the origin of before that cycle started. So basically 30,000 years before today. And we're going back into a time when humanity was just absolutely beautiful. It was the original form of humanity, and men and women were equal. But they also had like their own gifts and things. So it wasn't such a hardship to work together. They had their own roles. And we're going back to that. And, you know, right now we have souls that are masculine and feminine bodies, and feminine souls and masculine bodies. And this is all like, we got to get in there and we got to go through ascension, and we're here to help humanity rise. But that is the shadow that has just worked itself through. And we're going to feel the waves of that for a few more days, I would say. So
yeah,
it's been quite a big one.
Yeah. The feminine and the masculine. And if you think about it, that was just another age-old divide and conquer move. They wanted to divide the feminine from the masculine and shake up that balance so that the one can hate the other one. You know, it's a constant battle. That's what they do best, right? Divide and conquer. So now is the time to kind of say, okay, that's enough now. We're going to be balancing the two. The one is not more important or better than the other one. It's about integrating and balancing the two, because we all have feminine and masculine within us. And as you said, you can be a feminine with more masculine energy and vice versa. So, you know, this is now the time to rebalance, integrate, and move into a new era of peace and harmony.
Yeah, and work on your own energy when it comes to that too. Like, we have our own shadows. This was a collective shadow, and it hit everybody really hard. A lot of people got sick. Some people passed away, and some people are still in recovery from what, you know, this shadow.
That's interesting. Doesn't it feel like it always follows a solar flare or some solar activity when there's more light on the planet?
They're connected.
It brings up all the the gunk to the surface?
Mm-hmm. So, solar is soul. So think about that. I get that all of that energy comes from the souls that goes through the sun. So you're going to feel that, like that's the vehicle that humanity feels it through. But everything is coming from the soul's healing. So the souls agreed to be divided, to be in the 3D. And then that was taken advantage of by some who were very unhealed, and they just wanted power, and they wanted people to stay in the 3D because they were basically feeding themselves that way. But those souls are now gone, and the souls that are now participating in the rise of humanity, they're pushing these energies through the sun so that we can awaken further and further. And it always is like an effect on the body. You know, you're tired or, you know, whatever you're going through. But this last shadow and solar stuff that happened, because they're connected, was really big. So a lot of people were affected during that. And I was definitely very tired. I didn't feel so affected, but I was tired because there were so many people coming to me with what was going on with them.
It needed help.
And yeah, and they needed assistance. So that's just what's going on at the moment. Now we are getting through it, and it is almost over. So, and there are things on the other side that are going to be really good because we're going to be able to trust each other again. And that's the biggest thing that's going to come out of that, is the healing, so that men and women can actually work together and not be blaming each other for everything.
Yeah. I had some flu going on this weekend as well. It was kind of strange because I never get the flu. And it didn't really feel like a traditional flu. It was just like, you know, stuffed nose and sneezing and stuff. And yeah, so it's interesting that you said a lot of people got sick, but I'm better now. But yeah, things feel a bit lighter, I must say. Brad, what are you picking up over there? Same?
In a way, yeah, absolutely. So we're coming up to solstice as well. We're not too far from that, which is amazing. And since we're in this Aquarian age and the new golden age being ushered back in, I really feel this was the one we're going to hold on to. It won't be a golden age and you go for a few eons and then it collapses and you kind of have this reset of civilization again, you know, bad dark forces versus light, the constant scenario, and then it just changes hands, right? You know, there's shows out there that they've been putting out, Netflix, the Mongols, the Genghis Khan type, right? It's called Marco Polo. It's amazing.
Yes, I
if
watched
people
that
are watching,
a while ago.
right? The first 2 seasons, you're like, well, what does this have to do with this Marco Polo character overall? They're showing how, you know, there's this Genghis Khan descendant who wants to take over the empires. And then you have the church, you know, the Roman Catholic Church, and coming back and going, well, we're going to sweep Christianity over the world. And anybody who doesn't accept it, off with their heads. We'll send them to God and God will sort them out. Literally, this is what they're saying in the shows. So we're seeing also the seeding of the consciousness, Anina, from my perspective, where people are going, okay, well, I can see that, I can watch this. A new Matrix movie has just been brought back out again on, I think it was Netflix or Amazon at the very top of anything that you could see. And Neo has to escape the Matrix again. He actually fell into a Matrix. And Neo has to escape the Matrix again. If anybody's seen this, right? We had the trilogy, and then they have this sequel to the trilogy.
Wow.
And I feel that's once again the white hat communications groups, and God bless white hats who've been here, signaling to people like, hey, you know, if you cheer for Star Wars and you cheer for the rebels like Luke and Han Solo and Princess Leia, and if you've cheered for Starship Enterprise and Captain Picard and Leonard Nimoy as Spock and all those times, and now we're showing you what happens, Mongols to church, and it just continues cycles. Do you want this cycle anymore or not? And I believe this is the seeding of the conscious of there's no more of this, right? Atlanteans taken over Lemuria. So the time for the Lemurian energy also, from my old soul from Lemurian times, who witnessed the Holocaust and was there for the Lemurian Holocaust, is upon us of no more. And it's not to get in a state of vengeance and rage. It's a state of, no, we're broadcasting this love, this joy, this peace, this harmony, and drawing into us the creation of the new earth and the way that actually earth has already been, and we've already been, and bringing that back together into the collective, not only seeding it and creating individual humanitarian projects and establishing these communities. You know, just last week in Colorado was Naturally Inspired event, and you had people like Dr. Carrie Madej and Dr. Lee Tier and Kathy O'Brien speaking there. There's over 1,000 people who have come together. And this event didn't exist three years ago. I think they had 500 last year. You're seeing these communities in the United Kingdom, which are bartering with each other, right? There's a plumber who, well, if you have an issue with your toilet, but the plumber has an issue with his car, they've already established these in certain communities across England and Ireland and Scotland right now, of people who have figured out a way to barter hours for each other and trade. Amazing. It's 2024. And so this, and by doing shows like this with anybody or sharing shows, this gets that into the consciousness of like, well, let's just borrow what they're doing, which works right, and establish it in our community, whether you're, you know, in Mongolia, Alliance of Indigenous Nations, now with the Maori nations, and establishing how do we make sure we barter, we trade, and we have our own ledger to record a correspondence of an artist might want to do this piece and this person can contribute this. And it doesn't have to be from a finance standpoint. It could be from a time or loving or heart-centered or a healing. That's the Lemurian energy, which has returned and is now proliferating throughout Earth. It's pretty exciting.
It is.
Exciting.
Yeah.
We might even need it soon, you know. If the banks do go down, we, you know, this is being set up so we can trade with one another and we can get what we need in, you know, from food to services to repairs in this way. So we don't have to exchange money. We can just trade services and products.
Yeah.
I don't really feel that anything will go down too long. You know, there'll be a way that people will have what they need regardless of whether they need to barter or not barter. But it's going to be as soft as possible, but shocking at the same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of banks may crash, but also there's a lot of banks out there that are becoming wealth managers. So
it seems kind of
there's just
we have the agreement, the Saudi-US petrodollar agreement officially ending on the 9th. I mean, it's we've been told about this for at least 2 years, but now it's the official ending of that. So that's going to happen. And yeah, just like bring it on, because I swear, you know, the people that are asleep, just some of them just will not wake up. So we may need something quite scary, something that just like stops everything, almost like COVID did, you know, stop, everyone, stop. And then, okay, this is what's going on. Attention, pay attention. You can't ignore it longer. This is what's going on.
Yeah. I feel there's a percentage of people who, Anina, are just going to roll with it, like those normies and sleeping. And I met a few of them a weekend ago. And, you know, they're like, oh my gosh. And the person who is introducing me, one happened to be her husband, who has just kept it, like an ostrich, kept his head in the sand on purpose the entire time, doesn't believe it, right? She works for somebody who is very prominent in, let's just say, this movement, and saying like, here's the documentation, here's the videos, then here's this and this, and he wants nothing to do with it. And I feel that there's those people who will just be, they're just going to roll along with it. It won't be a slap in the face, wake up. It'll just be like, here's the next best thing. And whether those are NPC or not, I feel it's NPC-like. There are just a certain segment of the world population who are just I'm myopically focused and that's it. Right.
It's
And
not
anything that
interesting.
isn't at my dinner table with my family and my job and my watching football or getting out in Canada. We had 19 or 9,000 people at the Vancouver Canucks game 2 weeks ago for hockey. And they're like, yay, this is great. And you're like, wait, you are living in the province of BC where it's open, free, government paid. Fentanyl, meth, and coke. Free. You can
Not to
walk into a
mention
clinic, you have
euthanasia.
MAID,
Just
right?
feel
You
like,
can walk in and ask for medical assistance in death, which, by the way, because they stopped recording after October 2022, the 35,000 men, women, and children who were euthanized by the Canadian medical system. In addition to it, you can ask for it, and they say, well, watch how you die peacefully. Well, they don't. They actually, it's come out now too, right, and hitting the mainstream. Well, actually, they inject you with a paralytic. So they paralyze the entire body, and then you drown in your body fluids. So it's a chemical drowning, like the worst of waterboarding, but that you drown. And that is medical assistance in death. But you have these 19,000 Canadians, yay, hockey, watching a bunch of multimillionaires slapping a puck around the ice. So you're going to have that segment of myopically focused, self-centered, ostrich in the sand. It hasn't affected me yet. It might have affected people I know. I might be slightly affected, but just I want to forget. I don't want to be there. And the system's going to reset around them. We're going from the fiat to the gold-backed, asset-backed digital currency systems, which means there's precious metals. And it'll just be like that, those days of BlackBerry, where people made a switch from hardcore IBM ThinkPad 20-pound laptop dial-up to flip phone to a BlackBerry to a smartphone to what we're doing right now. And they're just gonna be like, oh, this is the way it is.
This is the new
flying cars, free energy, awesome. And they're just gonna roll with it. There'll be a segment. And then there will be other people going, I'm fully awake, this is what happened. And that's how it is. And we're gonna focus on our humanitarian projects and serving the world. And if those people want to serve the world, maybe there will be a time and place for them too.
They just haven't chosen that this time around.
Yep.
But it's
you have to think about how big is their consciousness too. I've watched consciousness that's like this big, like it's so tiny, and you can't expect something that's so tiny to understand the same thing that maybe like old souls, they're bigger than the planet, right? They're bigger than Earth. So old souls, we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of consciousness. And to ask an NPC or an NPC-like person to get it isn't really fair either.
I know.
So
put yourself in their shoes. They're just not seeing.
Just let them do what they do, kind of thing, I would say.
Yeah.
We really have had a lot of input on pushing them, and it's not really helping either because they just can't get it. It's like the people that couldn't recognize the boat that you talk about, Brad. Like there was a boat, it was the Spaniards were coming to
Cortez. Yep.
Yeah. So, and there was a boat in the ocean, they'd never seen that before.
Right.
So they didn't even realize that it was there.
Yep.
And that's how the consciousness works. If it's a smaller consciousness, they just don't have the experience.
No frame of reference to compare it to anything. They're just not seeing it. But sadly, I would say a lot of the people that have been vaxxed, a lot of people say like the part of the brain that has compassion and these things kind of go. It affects that part of the brain, and I can kind of see that. And so even less so can they sense. They even get irritable and downright rude when you talk stuff like that. It's like they don't even have the compassion to think, oh, that person, it's not crazy. Maybe I should just do some research to see if what they're saying is true. Nope. Cold, hard. That's not part of
the seed of the soul gets filled up. So there were a lot of different kinds of vaccines, and a lot of people got saline. A lot of people got like a flu shot. A lot of people transmuted their vaccine when they got it. You know, their soul transmuted it. But a lot of people, that was their path to be affected by it. And it basically screwed up the seat of the soul. So if you think about it, it's like the communication between the soul and the human, because our body is actually an organic computer. It's like it cut off the power cord, you know? So it filled up that area where the soul sits and in communication with the body. So they're going to be cranky because all they have is their human consciousness that's running everything, and that's a wounded part of them.
So they got more into that wounded part of them as a being, and that's where they operate from.
Yep. And when you have that, you've seen the it's loaded. It's way out there. It's loaded with heavy metal toxins, and then the billions to trillions of nanorobots. And then we've seen now with the dark field microscopy that you have the luciferase kind of has this glowing dark yellowish figure around the blood cells when you look at the blood of those who've had that type of vaccine. And now it's obviously turning off the signal communication, as Honey mentioned, to the soul, and you're completely calcifying the pineal gland, which is your connection to God source and quantum realm. And it's up to anybody who's still within that body and has a slight semblance of soul to choose to wake up or choose to ask for help at this point in time. That's kind of it. That's why I don't spend any time the last 2 years almost of like, we need to wake them up, like, hey, share solutions where people can be saved. We can't be sitting here like we're talking about the people who have a fractal of consciousness, like Honey was saying, the small size consciousness ostrich in the head. We can't grab them and shake them and tell them to wake up and point and look, the chicken little, the sky's falling, or look, there's a ship with men on it. Can't see the ship because it doesn't render my consciousness. I just see people floating in the air, but I don't know what that means, and run off to the jungle again. This is a story, by the way, about the conquistadors. So it's documented, right? With the Mayans. When they came, they landed on the shores. They couldn't see the ships, but they could just see like weird dressed men floating in the air. It only took time until you could touch it, you could feel it, and you could get a comprehension that these are these weird ships they've never seen before. So that's where we're going with this. So, and it really all comes back to the you, right? We have to focus on each one of us doing what we can and best, moving forward, knowing with our understanding, we're at this precipice of incredible golden age scenario of everything, pretty much everything our soul is able to do when it leaves its body is going to be here with the heaven on earth. And that's where I would say people focus on, drawing that in faster and co-creating in our collective consciousness, because pretty much all the dark forces, they're gone. They've been eradicated. They've been taken off. They went to the courts of heaven. They've been sent out of the system. There's no way they can come back into any of these galaxies. I mean, here we are. It's incredible to be here at this point in time. Plus, we have all this galactic helpful too, here on Earth in our ethereal realm, just outside of our vision. Most of us, for some of us, we're seeing them and communicating with them.
Yeah, I've just seen so many weird clouds where I am. It's like the weirdest clouds, and I just like, why is nobody else looking up and noticing that stuff? They just look so fake, but in a good way. I know there's lots of friends hiding behind them, but you can just see these are not like clouds have never looked like that. And then other times, clouds that just really look like 5D clouds. They're just so pretty. They look like they from an animation, like this beautiful glowing 5-dimensional candy cotton floss or whatever you call it.
Cotton candy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's how they're hiding, because our mind can't see the ships that easily. So they're hiding with cloud formations. And some of them are really funny. The ones that are they're like slightly grayer than the other ones, and then they have a
Yes.
really dark gray
Yes.
outline. I'm like, okay, guys, we see you, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Like,
it's
peekaboo.
yeah,
Like
I
I
know
it's
who
see,
you
so
are.
fun. Mhm.
okay, you
Yeah.
don't need to hide from me. But you can actually see now that how these ships they send out like a layer of smoke, and then some, and then
Plasma.
again, and then again. So you see these like layers also. I mean,
Mhm.
when have you ever seen clouds like that? It's never been seen. But you know what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's invent another. Oh no, these are new clouds. They have never been seen in hundreds of thousands of years, but now they a thing. Yeah, sure. They're not new clouds. We know what they are.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we're that far away from actually seeing a lot more ships. I know you can see them at night if you want to go out and look with those goggles, the night vision goggles. I've
Mm.
seen so many that way
Mm.
because they're not bothering to cloak
Mm.
at night. You do have to look pretty much straight up. So, you know, lying on a blanket in the ground is probably best, or
Mm.
a lounge chair so you can look straight up. But it's just kind of amazing right now. And I feel like humanity's pretty ready as a group
Yeah.
to see something much bigger, and to have that day where the earth stands still and everybody's like, oh, that just happened. So now I have to reorganize my entire brain to change the lifestyle that I've created,
Yeah.
because that doesn't work anymore knowing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Now, do you
Seeing
guys also
ships
feel like
going,
some people
pick
say
me.
on the 8th of April with that with that solar eclipse, whether it was fake or not, it was seems like it
Oh,
was
it's totally
fake,
fake.
that we went
It
through
was fake,
sort of
but it was a
portal.
doorway.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
now
It was a
actually went
shutter. The camera shutter went over it. It was a camera shutter, right? I mean, the full-on Truman Show of it's a camera shutter. No before and after moon. It was just a camera shutter. Then people are like, wait, but if there's a moon over here, you know, gonna go back to my latte, go back to my Instagram, whatever, right? Some of them. And you're like, yeah, finally. That's why I'm saying it's frustrating. Like, my hand's up, like, hey, I see them go overhead. Like, pick me up. Like, take me on the mission you're going right now. I've got 2 hours
Mhm.
between my next Zoom. You know, you can send me back in time, put me here, bring full memory. Anyway, I like to have a little fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's why more people are leaving again right now too.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's been several people in my like peripheral, not people that I'm really know,
Yeah.
but people that I know talking about people that they know, that they're like, oh, this person had
Yeah.
a catastrophic heart attack. This person did this person, you know, and they're just disappearing right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And even though they don't have big consciousness, they still have consciousness.
Yeah.
And they can't keep up with the frequency changes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
1 billion. Yeah, I was
mhm.
told the number is 1 billion. And so the 1 billion total approximate worldwide is loss, right? You know, people who have checked out, left the bodies
Mhm.
dead in the last 4 years is part of the frequency, obviously. And then,
Mhm.
due to, you know, the circumstances related to whether it was the mental health, the lockdowns, the suicides, then you have obviously everything related to the bioweapons. You had one of the leaders in Japan just came out a week ago and apologized for murdering millions of people with the vaccine.
Mm.
That's a lot. You had the Fossey testimony came out last Thursday and Friday, fully published transcript in Congress and congress.gov. I shared going, okay, fully admitted it was made up, planned, and now they're going to get into the AIDS and how that's a bioweapon. You finally had, after years, which has been talked about and covered by other doctors like Dr. Sherry Tenpenny to Dr. Christian Northrup, who have, and other names, those are just 2 prominent come to mind, about the Lyme crimes, right? So the very first bioweapon being the ticks and the Lyme disease at Plum
Yeah.
Island facility in New York, right across from Lyme, Connecticut. And so which was started by the Nazis in the 30s, so they could drop these ticks, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of them, on the Russians, so that they could kill off their cattle stock and starve the Russian population to death. But they actually did that in Cuba under the deep state programs when JFK was president, and they dropped them over Cuba. And so 80% of the cows now in Cuba, are sterile. And so the Lyme is the very first bioweapon on humanity in this century, the Lyme disease, right? Ticks, bioweapons. All this is out now, right? And it's out in a way where it gets to the mainstream, where you have a Tucker who now gets 50 to 100 million views on his X channel. He's got Putin on and Trump, and who else do you just have on? Elon. And he's going to bring Trump back on, I guess. Or Elon's going to interview Trump on X. Big signal to everybody there. That, hey, yeah, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. UFOs are real, UAPs are real. There's people from altered dimensions. There's stuff in our oceans. There's planets within our planet. All that is out. And it's out in a way where people who would be reading New York Post or Washington Times or even the New York Times are still in those audiences going, oh, wow. Oh, that was cool. Did you see that? Who won the game last night? But it's in the consciousness, the consciousness of people. So that when they roll it out and go, so we've been telling you about these UFOs and UAPs, and they've all been covered up. So everybody, if you go back to the biblical text, yes, it's referenced in the Bible. It's referenced in the Bhagavad Gita. We have it in the Mahabharata, the atomic weapons, the nuclear weapons. We have it on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, that if you drill down 100 to 150 meters, everything is liquefied to green glass. Why? What liquefies granite rock that way? Oh, nuclear weapon discharge does this. It's been verified. So somewhere around 30,000 years ago, what was nuclear out in the Caribbean? Possibly Atlantis? Possibly did that happen? Could it be crystalline energies? Energies from crystal creating nuclear weapons? What about 3,000 years ago in Egypt? You have glass in the sand from weapons fire around the pyramids. Not just the three that everybody is so prominent knows about in Giza, but you also have it throughout Egypt. You're like, oh yeah, that's from weapons fire, thousands and thousands of year old glassed sand from some ancient battle, all coming out, right? The images from Mars, tens of thousands of them, of human civilization, other planets too. So now they've got this here in the consciousness, and I feel we're just like months away, and every few weeks will be here's a big drop. Let it percolate. Here's another big drop of something else. Let it percolate. Right. And what can we do? Not be angry about it. Our job is to welcome it and go, finally, it's here. Awesome. And not go out and wag a finger in people's face like, I told you so. We told you so. That was part of our grieving process. That's done.
Yeah.
A year or 2 years ago. Now what we're here to do is go, yes, cheer that on.
That's very well said.
And we're here to create the joy for the future too.
Yes.
So to start really creating, and that's what our series is about. That's what our class, it's not really a class, but that's what our community is about, that Brad and I do. It's about creating the future, creating community, creating projects, and bringing people together that are trusting each other, that are basically they're finding their soul family. So that's what we're all here to do, is come together and now create together. And that's what the shadow is making available, because the trust will be there.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about the projects, how people are creating it. Do you create like guidelines for them, templates for them, and then when they've created it, what happens? Or it's more conceptual that
it's totally up to them how they do it. We are very sovereign with that. It's not, there's no kind of like formula that process Brad and I have for people. Yeah, they can do it on their own. There are people that are already starting their projects. They've gotten grants for them. Yeah. So the projects, like this is my project, to teach and to hold space for people and all that kind of thing. But eventually the projects will become more brick and mortar. So mine will become more brick and mortar, and it will involve learning and how to function and how to create the golden age through healing and self-sustainability and art. You know, all the arts are going to come back in a huge way.
Yep.
Because that's, the brain really works better if you're doing some form of dance or music or art. So those are the kind of things that are coming in, and some people will do maybe a med bed facility. Some people will have outreach programs for homeless people. It really depends on what your passion is.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
I think people are thinking, oh, I must have this and that, and this kind of structure, this kind of presentation. But I think that many people are not realizing that, or they're already busy with their project. It might morph into something bigger or different. But a lot of what we do is already those projects in a way. The starting of that, the education, as you said, you're doing that already, the healing and the education. But oh, Brad, you have to go soon. I just saw your message now. No worries, Brad. When you need to go, just give us a heads up, and then maybe Honey and I will just end off. But yeah, that's awesome. I think there will be so much for us to do. It's such an exciting time to just also rediscover history, all of this stuff. The glass under the...
Really.
What really went on in Egypt? We're going to find out all of that out. I mean, we can speculate, and we kind of have a fair idea, much more so than the people that haven't done the research, but it will all come out in terms of exactly what happened there, and what a joy to kind of rediscover our history and
Most certainly. We have new buildings and the structures. I mentioned Michigan Central Station in the beginning, and I wanted to tie that off before I have to leave for another show here, ladies. So thank you for your time. And that just dropped today about Michigan Central Station in Detroit. That is one of the new projects where you saw from Trump saying, we have old buildings, they're ugly buildings, we tear them down, beautiful buildings, regenerate them. We're going to build 10 freedom cities because we have all this land. I believe he's talking about beyond the ice wall, right? And then everything else, my belief. But to what was just put out today with Michigan Central Station, this is a building to be revitalized with a historic architecture of beauty, with modern day materials. And they went so far as to infer run-on free energy. And I've had David Silmar on the show twice in the last 2 years, and he has shown free energy, and he's had a light bulb, and he's put it in the water, he's drinking a glass of water, the light bulb's lit up, he takes it out. He's like, okay, well, that's in water. So he takes off this little attachment he's made, and he said it's all Tesla energy, but he has his own patents on this based off of Tesla patents he's built upon it, puts a little attachment on, and then it's powered by air. He said, we have homes in Malaysia, throughout Malaysia, where the entire home is powered by our converters, which is a one-time small fee for these little converters that you screw on, put in the back of a refrigerator, put onto these lights, regular lights you would buy at a Home Depot and run it. And they're bringing out their automobile engine converter, which is, if you have a petrol or a diesel engine still today, you can slap on, and they have the patents for it. It's already done proof of concept design. Now he's building manufacturing facilities for this, so that you can, I think it was for about $4,000 or $5,000, add it to approximately US, what people are thinking about now, add it to your car. You no longer need gas or petrol. It'll run on a single charge for up to a year. And your vehicle will go as fast as 130 kilometers an hour at top speed. You still need to put oil in if it's a regular engine to oil the engine, but you're no longer using combustible power from fuel, from gasoline or petrol. You're actually converting it, and it's running off the ether in the air.
I love that.
That's the oil energy. And he said it will weigh about 10 pounds.
Wow.
So for most women's purses weigh more than 10 pounds these days, so you just slap it on your end to do a converter, and here you go. You don't need to build all these brand new cars and automobiles. You can convert what we have to get us to the bridge to the next step, right? And we have all these people, and these are patented now. And this man is amazing, and his team is amazing. So yeah.
So where's his
cool.
website? Where can we order? Because I'll be there like a bear.
Sure. I've got the books that I can send you right now on. He has the website books. They were building the website. Actually, it's been 4 months. I have to follow up with him and see if they have it. But yeah, absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
I'm kind of joking, but I'm not also not. It sounds, I've always wondered, you know, we've had this technology supposedly for such a long time. Why can't I know the cabal is kind of blocking it, but nobody's stopping the average person on the street of, you know, getting these things into their homes. What are they going to do?
Yeah, in South Africa, just a year or two ago, there was the fellow, or he was in one of the African countries. I apologize. There's a fellow in high school who developed his own water-based engine and ran cars off water. So here you are, he's in high school, and the kid just researched it online and pulled it together. He doesn't have to be. You're not saying he's a prodigy. Yes, he's definitely a genius to pull this together, but had the information's online, so he just built it.
Yeah.
And he got the grant and the funding. And I apologize, it is an African country. I forget the name of the country. Kenya comes to mind, but there you go, right? So fostering the ascension vibe of people and not imposing restrictions on them. And as Honey said, you know, with our ascension mastery member community, what do you want to do? Kind of like, what do you want to do when you want to grow up type of thing. I want to be this, this, and this. Good, go for it. We're all here to support you. What can we do that contribute to this to make that happen? And then they start asking questions and people get involved, and it's really cool.
Co-creating the
It's really cool.
The way it's supposed to be.
Indeed. Ladies, I'm hosting the next show, so I have to drop off this in order to host the next one we're recording. So I apologize, I have to go, and thank you to the audience for being here. But everybody's in great hands with these two divine feminine.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Same. Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon. Yeah.
Okay, that was fun. So
it was fun.
Yeah. So Honey, you've been traveling. You had some interesting events that you've attended. You've obviously seen a lot of people. What is the mood out there? I think a lot of people are getting very frustrated. You know, and everything Brad said just now is just so uplifting and focusing on the positive, and you do that as well, focusing on the positive. So I'm just trying to people, but what about this? But what about that? It's like, but why are you focusing on all the negative stuff?
Yeah. Most of the people I associate with are focused on the positive at this point. So I'm not really seeing a lot of.
There's a lot of sort of newcomers coming into my field, you know, as they start waking up, but then they tend to be very negative at first because they see first all the things that have gone wrong. So I tend to attract quite a mixed audience, but there's a lot of newcomers, as I said, and they've so been lied to for so long that they, you know, you can't blame them for being a little bit cautious. But
no, I think reminding people though that this has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And they're now just seeing it, but it's also at the end of the whole cycle. So reminding them that you're just seeing it at the end. So lucky for you, you don't have to go through 30 years of waiting for this to happen, because some people have known for 30 years. I knew in 2001 when the Trade Center came down, I knew that was like a psyop. I knew that the war had begun. And I was like, finally, it's starting, you know? And a lot of people suffered because of that. And a lot of people believed what they were feeding them. But those people are gone now. Like, there's no Hillary Clinton that really exists anymore. There is no big soul that has been in control of a lot of the cabal people that exist anymore. Like, all of that is done. So I don't even use the word cabal hardly ever anymore, just because to me, they're done. They've been phased out, and we're just seeing the residue of them.
Yeah.
So we're not actually seeing pushback. The pushback is coming from either our own shadow, if it's like a personal thing, or coming from the white hats who are still, you know, practicing some of the things to phase them out.
Yeah.
And to awaken more people.
Yeah.
So like when your channel gets canceled, that's to awaken other people because they're expecting you to come back and say, and look what they just did. They just canceled my channel. So to me, it's more about the psychology of awakening people at this point than any negative or wounded souls that were trying to keep humanity in this 3D space.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, we're in this, yes, in this silent war, this underground war, spiritual war, no matter what you want to. But one of the biggest tasks of the White Hat is actually, because I come from a marketing background, so I see it's almost like a massive, major PR campaign or an anti-psyop campaign. The whole waking up process is a massive campaign, a little bit, but they always say if you want to sell something to someone, you've got to like get them to see that ad online at least 4 times, sometimes more. Oh yes, that thing. Okay, maybe I should try that. They're not gonna buy it after the first, ad. And this is exactly what's happening here. That's why they have to give it again and again, and they've got to, like with Trump, it's just like again and again and again until people are like, I get it. It's like this is all a sham. This is all like a fraudulent thing. Okay, I get it. So, people are so busy with their lives, as Brad said, they're just working and soccer and whatever, going down to the pub and kids, and they don't have time for anything else. So you've got to so it's frustrating for us because we saw it from the get-go, but I do think they're trying to get the major part of the population kind of on board. The more of us are to co-create this, and the more it's seeded into the subconscious. It's just like the bad predictive programming. Well, this is the good predictive programming that they're kind of just putting into the subconscious again and again and again until people are like, okay, I know what's going on. I don't know how I know, but I know because they've seen it there.
Yeah.
That person, they read this, and it's just like multi-layered approach. So we just got to be a little bit patient, It's all going to happen, considering this has been taking thousands of years to play out, and considering if you can take a 40,000-foot view and just, it's like a little blimp in history. So don't get all worked out about the details and that it's taking so long, but this has happened, just like chill, because, the bigger picture is things are moving in the right direction. We can feel we are already on the other side of this. And a lot of us that are intuitive, we feel like this war's already won, it's done, like you said. But a lot of people get bogged down by the small little details that seems like failures or, obstacles.
Well, and sometimes you're distracting yourself with the small details because really what's going on, this is a war from the inside out. So it's your soul's work, your inner child's work. That's what's really changing everything. So as the consciousness is shifting and things are healing, that's why things are moving forward. So if the souls hadn't been willing to deal with their shadows, and the inner children, which is the human consciousness, hadn't been willing to heal, then we would still be in a different space right now. But those things are happening and we are moving forward. And to those people that are just awakening and seeing the ugly things, congratulations to you, really, because you've come in at a time where we're much further ahead than you're aware of. And it's going to be much easier road for you. And we're also glad that you're here, because as you awaken, then that gives more speed and more momentum to the total awakening process, and the change is happening. So we're very grateful that you're awakening right now. I think that's my main message for people that are in this big second wave. And it's not for people that have already been awake to pay so much attention to the things that are resurfacing, because they're resurfacing to be cleared. And it's time to let them be cleared and don't get sucked back into them. But the people that are just awakening now because they're seeing them finally, and they are getting out there, like with Tucker Carlson and X and Trump and, you know, all of that, it's really time for them to see it, and then they will be able to release it much faster because they don't have to hang on to it anymore, because it's actually time for it to go. Because the healing is happening inside of the soul groups, inside of the human body, inside of the inner child.
Yeah. And that is partly also why I guess it's taking so long. People need to heal also ahead of this ascension pinnacle point that we're heading towards.
Yeah.
The healing and all the stuff needs to be let go before we get to that point. So, you know, we need time for that to happen. Embrace this time. Be thankful for this time, because you have the time now to get ready for, you know, that big ascension point, so to speak, before it happens. You want to be ready. You want to be lighter when it all comes down. You want to be calmer. You want to be more at peace. So people just, you know, it's like a broken record, but people truly need to go and do the work and look within and pay attention to their own journey, instead of just always looking out and looking to see what is the progress, what is the latest intel, what has been happening. Just what is the latest that's been happening inside? What progress have you made inside to get ready for this beautiful, monumentous event that we're heading for?
Because we create our own reality. And as a group, we create a group reality. So if we're healing, then the reality is going to shift. And I will share, there's a show that I watched recently, and I watched it 3 times because I introduced it to people that I was spending time with, and then they watched it again, and I sat there with them. So it's called Outer Range, and it's on Prime, so Amazon Prime. And it's illustrating parallels and how things work. And it's showing you more of the dark side, because the human people that are in this show, they don't understand what's happening. But you will be able to understand it from the outside watching it. And it really did help illustrate parallels to the people that were watching it. I was like, oh, this is so good, because there's a parallel over here, and you can go back in time, and all of the things like that we've been talking about, it's showing you that, and it's showing you in a really blatant way. So I would recommend that for people that are newly awakening, because it gives you more perspective on the control that we actually have of our immediate reality. Because there's multiple realities, and which one do you want to be in?
Yeah. Which one are you going to give energy to? I think people forget quickly how powerful they really are. I always tell the people, we collectively manifest the future in every moment, every step that we take. It's like a little crossroad. Every moment is a crossroad. You're going that way, you're going that way. You know, it's your decision. You create as you go.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So your Ascension series with Brad, we'll leave the link below if people want to join. Is that just an ongoing monthly thing that you guys are running?
Yeah, that's a subscription. It's $29. And you get to be in the Signal group, and you get to come to the live meetings, and we do 2 a month, and ask questions, send in emails and stuff like that. The community is really beautiful, I would say. And getting your questions answered is also really great. Yeah, there's support in there for people. And they're working together. And really, nobody is more knowledgeable than anybody else. Somebody has knowledge that you're seeking. So everybody has their gift. and everybody has their bits of knowledge that they can share. So it really is a beautiful community, and that's what things are going to start looking like. We're going to start seeing a lot of communities come together, and the trust piece was so important, and we're going to start to be able to see and feel the other person and know, are we going to work well together? Is this in my highest good? That kind of thing. And that's going to be conscious business. And this conscious business will be conscious projects.
It's like 5D business. No more competition, no more win-lose, no more, undercutting this one or, competing with that one. It's just beautifully supporting, complementing one another and working as a team. That's so lovely. It's just, I can see it. I can so see it. Also, having been in business for a long time, you know how it goes. It's so cutthroat out there, and competitors, competitive businesses want what you have, and they steal this client, and it's terrible what's been happening in the business world for all these years. And I just so look forward to all of that going away, and we'll be working together for the first time without jealousy, without competing with one another, without lying to one another. It's just such a beautiful thing, working together for a common goal and supporting one another and complementing, each other's skills and strengths and passions as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be beautiful.
It is. It's a great time we're coming into.
Yeah, so we'll leave
Thank you.
Website, Brad's website, the Ascension series. My links will be below as well. So, guys, make sure you share the love and let everyone know what all the beautiful things that are going on. Let's spread the good news rather than the bad news. People are quick to let like negative things go viral. Let's let positive things go viral now. That's what we need to be focusing on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, honey. Good to see you again. It's been a while, so good to catch up. And thank you so much for bringing your energy, and Brad as well. So we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. I would love to.
Okay, everyone. Much love. See you soon.